Alright, hello and welcome to a video where I will be ranking all of the boss fights from the Crash Bandicoot Sane trilogy. Now, I do love a good boss fight, and this game includes many memorable encounters, and some not so memorable ones. In this video, I'll go through all of them, ranking them from worst all the way up to the best. There are 16 boss fights overall, 6 in Crash Bandicoot 1, 5 in Crash 2 and 5 in Crash Warped. I'll be ranking them based on their difficulty, their creativity and my own personal experience with each boss fight. I'm sure you have your favourites. Let me know your favourites in the comments. With that being said, let's kick off the video at number 16. So yes, the worst boss in the entire Sane trilogy is Cortex's final boss in Crash Bandicoot 2. This is a final boss of the game. Oh, it's so disappointing. Of course, Crash Bandicoot 2 is my favourite of the trilogy. But in this one, you just fly on a jetpack, chase him through the little tunnel, and spin him 3 times, and that's it. It's so easy, it's so simple, and such a disappointment, especially for a final boss. Now, unfortunately for Papu, he is the first boss in the entire series, which means his boss fight was always going to be a bit easy. But even then, there isn't much to say about this fight. He spins in a circle and you jump on his head. Although, having said that, I have managed to die to Papu numerous times throughout my history of this series. In at 14 is the Komodo brothers fight from Crash Bandicoot 2. This is the second boss for this particular game, and although I do like the idea of them throwing knives, for me there's never really any danger because they throw them so slowly and nowhere near Crash Bandicoot. I do find it funny, however, that to defeat the boss you must spin Komodo Joe into his brother Komodo Mo. This is their only appearance within the trilogy, although they did appear as a boss fight in Crash Bash, along of course with Papu. So, up next is Pinstripe from Crash 1. What annoys me about this fight is that I really like the character of Pinstripe, and considering this is the 4th boss in the game, I would be hoping for much more of a challenge. In the end, you hide behind some chairs and wait for his gun to jam, or for him to simply move across the screen. This boss could have been so much better. It would be lower on the list if I didn't love the design of the office and the character himself. Shame he wasn't used more in the series though. Sad face. And here we have the first of 2 appearances for Ripperoo. This is the boss fight from Crash Bandicoot 1, which, considering it is only the 2nd boss in the game, I do find myself having quite a few difficulties with it now and then. I like the idea of there being big TNT. It would have been so cool as well if big TNT was used in other levels in the game. I just find it funny that somewhere on the Wumpa Islands there's a manufacturer of big TNT that has to put big TNT on the box so people know it's bigger than normal TNT. I want more big TNT. Now then, eventually we have our first appearance of a boss from Crash Bandicoot Warped, and it's the battle against Tiny. For a first boss in the game, this is a really good and fun one. Although pretty easy, that is to be expected of a first boss. I love how you can spin the tigers away, literally sending them to Narnia as they fly off screen. And I like the little detail of Cortex being there watching on as a Roman emperor. Let's just hope he doesn't start shagging his sister like other certain Roman emperors. And here we have the second battle against Ripperoo. This time he is the first boss for Crash 2. I really like his gentleman outfit for this battle as well as a setting of a library. Although it is relatively easy to avoid his TNT and Nitro attacks, for a first time player I can imagine this battle can be quite daunting. Just make sure you keep an eye on him and try to avoid him and stay in a safe spot when he places his Nitro, and you should be okay.
Yes, it is true. The Bandicoot has brought all the crystals and all of the gems to me. Oh.
Yet again, another relatively disappointing final boss in my books. It's time to defeat Cortex yet again. I do like the way in which Aku Aku and Uka Uka fight during the battle, meaning you cannot take a mask into this boss, which would make it far too simple. I just feel like there are better battles in Crash Warped, and kinda hope for a final boss where there'll be something epic and amazing. But then maybe I expected too much. This one, don't get me wrong, is fun. I just never feel threatened by Cortex as he lazily fires and throws a few mines at you. As we reach the halfway point, we now have the Koala Kong boss fight from Crash 1. For many, he can actually be the hardest boss in the first game. In fact, I only found out recently that it is possible to spin away the small boulders that Koala Kong throws at you. This makes this boss a little bit easier. I really like the setting of this boss as well, being in a mine shaft, and the challenge it provides as well, especially since he is only the third boss in the game. One thing I do find annoying though is the timing of the mine carts can sometimes get in the way when you have to spin the big boulder back at him. But this is a very good boss.
Now you're on my time, you little skunk.
So, up next is Tropy, who I would accidentally call Trophy when I was younger. I can't be the only one that's done that. Many people mistook his name for Trophy. He is actually called Tropy, and is the one who designed the Time Twister. Yet he is only the third boss in the game, since by this point in the series it was established that N.Gin would always get that fourth boss fight slot. One detail that I'm not sure was in the original is that Tropy fires clocks at you. Possibly this could have been in the original, but the graphics didn't make it obvious there was clocks he was firing at you. I'm not sure. I feel like this boss is the perfect difficulty for a third boss in the game. However, there could have been a fourth or maybe fifth phase, since it is over quite quickly. Maybe they could have added a part where the platforms start to disappear when you cross over to hit Tropy. But it's still a worthy fight for Crash.
My time is up, but yours soon will be too.
Now it's Tiny Tiger's second appearance in this ranking, and this is the boss fight which I prefer out of his two in the trilogy. It is a bit simple, but then I guess I'm a bit of a simple person. You have to jump from each platform as Tiny chases you down, trying to lure him onto a falling platform. I'm not sure why I enjoyed this one so much, but it could be the RNG, since the platforms don't fall in the same pattern each time. This is one I come back to just to mess about on. Plus, Tiny is one of my favourite characters from the series.
Darn you, Crash Bandicoot!
Now we reach the top 5, and finally a good final boss fight against Cortex. This is by far the best Cortex fight in the trilogy, as you fight on top of his blimp with Cortex Castle in tatters and on fire in the background. This is the only final boss in the trilogy that I would say is challenging. The other two are both just a bit too easy. There's very little room to maneuver as Cortex fires different types of laser balls at you. But fortunately, he's a bit of an idiot and keeps firing the green laser balls which Crash can spin back at him. This is always one part I would dread when I used to speedrun this game. Of course N.Gin would feature high on this ranking. This is the best boss fight in Crash 2 in my opinion. It's an epic encounter against N.Gin in his mech suit, spaceship thingamajiggity. I'm not sure what you describe this as, but it does look very cool. However, this would have been much better as a final boss in the game. It's such a shame that you get that really disappointing fight against Cortex. Really, it would have been cool if Cortex was given this big mech suit spaceship thing. I'm still not sure what to call it. There's so many different phases as you fire Wumpa Fruits at each section, slowly destroying all his weapons. The only negative, however, is that it can be hard to judge when to throw your Wumpa Fruits, as it's never really obvious where you're going to aim them, which can make this boss a little bit tedious. However, I do much prefer a long, epic boss fight. This might be a bit of a surprise, as I'm not sure how highly people would rank this fight. However, in the top 3 is Brio, in his only boss fight in the trilogy. This is a very decent challenge for the penultimate boss in the first game. In the first part, it can be hard to work out what to do, as you have to jump on these potion monsters that squirt into his eye. I really like how this boss has 2 different phases, with Brio basically turning into the Hulk in the final section, giving him some of the highest amount of hit points in the entire series. Quite funnily, when recording this, I even managed to glitch him, but I just left him there because he looked like he was having a fun time. Watcha mates, just missing out on the top spot is Dingo, Dingo, Dingo. This is such a cool and fun boss to fight. In a way, it's similar to the Komodo brothers from Crash 2, but done so much better, as his attacks are much more threatening, and the way in which you bait him to destroy his own crystal fortress is a very nice idea. Oh, these puns are absolutely awful. Who wrote this script? Who wouldn't want to break out the butter and make toast with Dingodile? Now yes, if you really are good at the game, you can slide jump spin into his fortress, but that does not detract away from this fight. Now then, if people have been paying close attention, you will already know my number 1 pick. Was it ever really in doubt? Of course, the best boss in the trilogy is N.Gin from Crash Warped. This is also the only boss which Coco has to fight in this epic space battle. N.Gin's boss battles are always a highlight of the series. Even the N.Gin inspired boss in Crash the Wrath of Cortex is the best boss in that game. There's so much going on and so many different parts of him you have to shoot, it's so fun. And for the more experienced players, you can even challenge yourself to try and beat him without taking any damage at all. Even Pura gets in on the action for the second phase. So then, that is where the video is unfortunately going to end. Thank you everyone for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your favourite bosses in the comments. But for now, take care and leave me alone.